If you've been watching my series from the beginning, you already know that I have a soft spot for Journey. It's one of my all-time favorite games, might even be my #1. It was also the focus of my first video, which, if you haven't watched it, is linked below in the description. Having already discussed just about the entire first half of the game in that video, I want to take a look now at the game's ending. Since we're talking about the end of the game, this video does contain spoilers, so if you haven't played Journey yet and you plan to, you probably should before continuing on with the video. The initial ascent up the mountain is this harrowing frozen wasteland, and it's totally killer. I mean that literally, it ends with the death of your character. And just as this is your traveler's lowest point, the resurrection that follows couldn't be more different. As if successfully completing your journey isn't already happy enough, its contrast with the miserable moments leading up to it just amplifies all the positive emotions that it's designed to make you feel. The game's mechanics play a large part in successfully establishing this contrast. As you and your partner are struggling up the mountain, the cold tears away at your scarf and you're blown about by the wind. Additionally, the stone guardians return to hunt you through the snow, threatening to tear your scarf away for the slightest misstep and dramatically increasing the tension. You feel helpless because you're steadily losing the control over your movement that you've grown used to over the course of the game. As soon as you're brought back to life though, it's completely the opposite. After the robed figures gather around you as if to judge whether you're worthy of rebirth, you're granted a max-length scarf before you're flown up above the clouds. This, combined with the vast number of cloth creatures present there, makes it nearly impossible for your scarf to run out of the charge you use to fly. And only when talking about Journey would those sentences make any sense. Anyway, this scene with you flying high above the clouds after death also evokes the idea of an angel in heaven. Before we move on, I want to take a brief moment to talk about those robed watchers from before. At the end of each level, you meet with a tall robed figure like yourself, but until you see all 6 here, it's reasonable to believe that you're encountering the same one each time. This idea of the final level expanding the scope of what you know is going to be important in a bit, so we'll want to keep that in mind. Before we get to that though, let's look at the level's structure after your resurrection. You'll see as we go that this level references all the levels that came before it. Shortly after you ascend, you encounter the familiar cloth bridges that recall the first level, where you rebuilt the bridges with your partner as you explored the canyon. As you continue, you reunite with the flying cloth creatures from the desert and return to the slippery sliding of the sunken city. Next, you encounter the seaweed-like cloth creatures and jellyfish that you first saw in the tunnels, calling back to that level's most peaceful moments rather than the tension of being hunted by the stone guardians. Finally, you re-encounter the cloth whales from the temple as they leap out of the water while you steadily climb the waterfalls. Just as the level design recalls previous chapters, so does the music. A reimagining of the theme from the game's first moments, its upbeat tempo and key reflect your freedom of movement, and those same elements emphasize the happiness this section is designed to elicit. Also, the swelling and rising of the piece, just like in Cave Story's Moon Song, match the events in the gameplay as you continue to climb up the final steps of the mountain, finally resolving on a high note both figuratively and literally when you reach the top. This journey within a journey, conveyed both by the environment and the music, is to me one of the most crucial parts of this level's design. Even though this is the journey's end, the final level is framed entirely to make you focus on the adventure itself rather than the fact that it's almost over. Referencing the happiest moments of all the previous levels, the finale acts as a satisfying conclusion that holds true to the design philosophy visible in the rest of the game, which values the journey itself over its destination. By tying the whole story together, the finale has the effect of condensing it, allowing you to think of it more easily as a single cohesive whole. This is extremely important in establishing Journey's replayability, which is one of the features that game company really wanted to emphasize when making the game. We can see evidence for this in the short completion time and the Wonder Trophy, which you earn by playing with 10 or more different travelers. Additionally, since Journey is at its core about fostering a relationship between you and your partners, it opens the door for you to think of these relationships on a wider scale when considered alongside a couple of particularly noteworthy details. As you perform the final ascent, you'll see these glowing golden symbols in the air around you, and they'll probably seem a little familiar. Throughout the course of the game, every time you activate your traveler's pulse, a symbol will appear above their head, one randomly chosen from many when you start your journey. This serves the function of allowing you to identify which traveler is yours in a pinch, so you associate these symbols with other players. When you see them here at the end, it seems intended to make you think about and feel connected to all the other players out there who have made the same journey. This feels like a natural broadening of the relationship you've formed with your partner or partners, and is a great reminder that many walked the same path before you and many will again after. Just like the revelation that the robed watchers are many, not just one, this serves to broaden the scope of your experiences in the game's final moments. The final detail I want to look at is another sort of recontextualization, and to understand its importance we need to go back to the beginning. At the start of the game, you see this shining object fly across the sky like a shooting star, and for most of the game there's not really any explanation at all for what it is. Upon reaching the mountain's peak and walking into the light, however, you find that your traveler is transformed into this brilliant mote of light that flies back along your path to its beginning during the credits, the same as the one you see overhead at the start. The discovery that the light you saw at the beginning signified the ascension of another traveler completely changes the way that you see the beginning of the game, making the whole adventure feel like this cycle that you're experiencing with all the other players out there. Plus, if you're anything like me, it made you want to start it all over again just to see what else you might have missed. Really, all of this level's successes are the result of deliberate design that, consistent with the rest of Journey, is intended to prompt an emotional response, specifically a feeling of togetherness. What elevates it above and beyond is that it manages to take the relationships you form while playing and expand their scope into something much bigger than you might have considered before. This level is so great to me because it's a satisfying and complete conclusion that manages to introduce something new and memorable that you don't get from the previous chapters of the game. I hope that you enjoyed the video and will share your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. What are some levels you'd like to see featured here? Thank you for watching, and I hope that you'll join me next time for another great level in gaming.